Have you ever looked up at the night sky and thought, wait, am I looking at space or am I looking at time? Because what if I told you that some of that light up there began its journey before Earth even looked like Earth? Assalamu alaikum. My name is Husnain. And from today, I want to take you on a journey. Not a fictional story, not a motivational speech, not some random theory thread from the internet. A journey through what we can observe, what humanity has preserved, and what Revelation claims about the beginning of everything. So let me start with something simple. You know that cluster of stars people often recognize at night, the one many families point out to kids? In the West, it's called Ursa Major. It's up there again and again, almost like a reminder. Now imagine something crazy. Imagine your eyes were so powerful they worked like the strongest telescope ever built. If you could zoom far beyond those stars, you'd eventually reach something so distant that it doesn't even look like a galaxy. It looks like a tiny reddish smudge. And that little smudge represents a real place in the universe filled with more stars than we can easily count. Here's the part that messes with your mind. The light from extremely distant galaxies takes billions of years to reach us. So when we see them, we're not seeing now. We're seeing a message that left long, long ago. And that tells us one thing immediately. The universe has a past so deep, human history doesn't even register on the scale. Humans, as a species, show up at the very end of the timeline, like the last seconds of a movie that's been playing for hours. So how do we talk about the beginning? Science tries, and honestly, it has done something amazing. In the 1960s, two researchers picked up a strange signal. It wasn't coming from one star or one galaxy or one direction. It was everywhere, like a faint background noise spread across the entire sky. That signal became famous. It's called the cosmic microwave background, a kind of afterglow, like an echo of an early, intense phase of the universe. And from that, the Big Bang model becomes more than a guess. It becomes an explanation with evidence. But here's the thing. As powerful as science is, it still runs into questions that feel like a wall. Questions about the earliest moment, questions about what before even means, questions about why the universe looks so balanced on huge scales. And when you reach that edge, you realize something important. Science is a tool, but it isn't the only way humans have tried to understand origins. So then I asked myself, all right, what did ancient people believe? And it's strange, because when you look across old civilizations, you start seeing repeated themes. Mesopotamia, Sumer, Egypt, Greece, then cultures far away in Africa, Asia, Australia, the Americas, people separated by oceans and thousands of years. Their stories aren't identical, no. Some details are symbolic, some are clearly myth mixed with culture. But certain ideas keep returning. A time when the familiar world wasn't formed yet, a kind of vast water or deep ocean, a supreme power alone initiating creation, and often creation linked to command, decree, or the word being spoken. Now you can interpret that in different ways. Maybe humans naturally imagine water as the first substance. Maybe stories traveled farther than we think. Or maybe, just maybe, there was a shared original truth that got distorted as generations passed it down. Either way, one thing becomes obvious. Most of humanity has always believed the universe didn't appear for no reason. Then comes the next big problem. If you accept that religion matters, which one? There are thousands of religious paths. Some have multiple versions of scripture. Some contain ideas about the world that clash with what we can observe.
Some changed over time in ways that even their followers admit. So where does that leave someone who actually wants clarity? This is where Islam enters the discussion in a very bold way. Islam doesn't just present itself as a spiritual lifestyle. It puts forward a claim that its core text, the Qur'an, is meant to be approached with seriousness, reflection, and confidence, not just as a book built on uncertainty. And the Qur'an speaks about creation in ways that are worth paying attention to, even if you're just studying. It talks about the heavens and the earth as having been joined, then separated. It highlights water as central to life. It describes creation occurring in days, and that instantly raises a question. Are those days like our days, or is the word day being used as a measure that depends on context? Because here's what people miss. The Qur'an doesn't treat time as a simple, flat thing. It describes a day in different measures in different places. That alone tells you the text is not locked into a childish idea of time. And that's when the whole topic starts to feel bigger than a basic debate like science versus religion. Now let's come down to something closer to us. What do we even mean when we say the sky? Ask 10 people and you'll get 10 answers. Some will say it's the blue ceiling. Some will say it's where clouds are. Some will say it's basically space. Science gives part of the answer. The blue we see is mainly the atmosphere, and it looks blue because of how sunlight scatters through gases. Above us are layers where weather forms, where planes fly, where meteors burn, where satellites orbit, where auroras glow. But the Qur'an uses sky in a way that isn't limited to just what looks blue. It speaks about water coming down from the sky. It speaks about the sky as a kind of protection. It places celestial objects within it, and it repeatedly hints that there are more than one heavens, more than one levels. So now you have two kinds of knowledge sitting in front of you. One is what you can measure with instruments. The other is what revelation claims about realities beyond our normal reach. And if you're honest, you don't have to hate one to explore the other. You just have to be careful. You have to separate what's solid from what's speculation. The Qur'an speaks of 7 heavens, and in Islamic tradition, there are accounts of the Prophet's night journey and ascent, where different levels of the heavens are mentioned and earlier prophets are encountered. Now, I'm not here to overload you with every narration on day one. Some details people quote online are debated in strength and interpretation, but the larger message is consistent. Reality is layered, ordered, and far greater than what we touch. And then you hit one of the most powerful concepts in the Qur'an, that creation is not described as God struggling with matter, getting tired, or needing rest. Creation is described as will and command, that when Allah decrees a matter, it happens. It's the idea people summarize as when Allah commands be, it becomes. And suddenly, those old human stories from around the world, the ones that keep hinting at creation through a divine word, they start sounding like echoes. Not perfect, not preserved cleanly everywhere, but echoes. So this is where I want to stop for today, because if we keep going, this becomes a full documentary episode. But remember what we did here. We looked up and we realized the sky is a record of time. We looked at science and we respected what it can prove while admitting where it still asks questions. We looked back at ancient humanity and we noticed repeated patterns, and then we placed the Qur'an on the table as a text that demands serious reading, not lazy assumptions. From here, we can go deeper. We can talk about what the Qur'an implies about the structure of the heavens, about time, about boundaries, about what rises and descends, about the end of the universe, and why all of this is not just space talk, but a message about meaning. And this was only the beginning.